Hey everyone, today let's get into our hips. We're going to begin in a tabletop. And we just want the hands under the shoulders, knees are under the hips. From here, what we're going to do is start by making some nice easy circles before we challenge it. So just draw one knee in, flex the foot, draw a nice big circle and take it back to the ground again, and then take it back the other way. Nice big circle, and then switch to the other side. Draw the knee in, take it out, take the leg back and back to the floor, and then reverse it. And we'll just do a couple more each side, just going through some passive rotation, nothing particularly challenging. And as we're moving, I want you to focus on breathing in and out of your nose so that we're using the diaphragm. Last one. From here, what we're going to do is now do that same rotation, but we're going to challenge it and make it active. We're going to draw the knee in, flex the foot, and we're trying to keep and maintain this nice length in the spine without really rounding out through the back. So this is our hip flexion. From this position, take the leg out to the side to abduct the hip. And what we want to avoid doing here is really rocking and letting the lower back and the hips move. So you should feel the outer hip and glute really fire up in this position. We'll take it back into hip extension. And for hip extension, a really common fault is to tilt the pelvis forwards and arch the lower back. So from here, we want to draw the lower ribs in, tuck the bum under, and just take ourselves to our true extension of our hip, which for some, you might be down here. For others, you might be able to get that full range all the way open. All we'll do from this position is come in, back into flexion, and then reverse it, take it back into our hip extension, feel the glutes firing up, keep breathing in and out of the nose, take it out to the side, and then back to the floor. And that's one rotation, so we'll do the same on the other leg. Draw the leg in, flexing the foot, take it out, abduct the hip, keep breathing, back into hip extension, engaging the glute, not tilting into the lower back. And draw it in, and then take it back. Should feel a lot of heat building up pretty quickly when you're doing this. And you can obviously challenge it over time by adding longer holds. It's really great to build some strength around the hips. Let's go again on the other side, draw the leg in, take it out. Back into hip extension. Keep drawing those ribs in. And then from here, taking the knee back in. And back. Out to the side. And into that starting position. Onto the other leg. Hip flexion. Out, abducting the hip. Hip extension. Really squeezing that glute, draw it in and reverse it out to the side and back in. Once more each leg. You can add some longer holds. So you really warm into it, you can start to challenge it a little bit more. And over time, if you repeat this flow, then that's what I want you to try and do, is just that, actually start to add some form of progressive overload and challenging the movement patterns that you go through. Okay, last one. Hip flexion, and then take it out. Feel that outer hip and glute burning. And hip extension. Hip flexion, and then reverse it. Okay, from there you can rest. We're going to sit onto our bum and we'll go into some seated rotations for the hips. So hips and shoulders are ball and socket joints. We need to make sure that we've got rotation to be able to actually have any form of functional movement within that joint. If we're lacking rotation, you're going to struggle with other areas of movement because the hip has to rotate to be able to move. What we'll do is have the feet fairly wide. We'll go into a 90-90 position. And obviously I've got these two 90-degree angles. If this is too much, you can support your body by using a hand or both hands. You can also shorten this distance and actually bring the legs closer together, and that can feel a little bit more comfortable. We'll make it easy to begin with. So hands can be on the ground and we're just going to go side to side. Open up And again, this is passive, nice and chilled. You can pop cushions under your bum. Elevating the hips will also help just make this a little bit more accessible if you feel really tight. Don't worry if your legs aren't going all the way down to the floor like mine are here. So if you're only going sort of partial range, that's fine. You can build into it over time. And we'll now challenge it up. So continue to do this. If this is enough for you right now, you can slow it down and add some pauses and hold in those base positions. Otherwise, if you want to challenge it a bit, let's try and do this now without supporting our weight onto our hands. I like to squeeze the fists and think about irradiating through the body because I want to create some full body tension, which helps me really focus on the area that I'm actually working in. And it's almost like creating my own internal resistance. From this position, we're going to lift the back knee up. Really try to pull this hip open away from this bottom hip. So they're resisting away from each other. Go slowly as I can all the way to the other side. And again, I'm still making this fairly easy at the minute, so you can start to turn on the tension. Probably about 20% tension right now, if not less. Lift the back knee, pull them apart, and start to rotate. Again, lifting it up, pulling the hips away from each other, and rotate. Okay, I'm going to make it a little bit more challenging again. So this time I'm going to lift the back knee, take a breath in, push this front leg down into the floor as hard as I can. On the exhale, still pushing the front leg down, open the back leg more. And again, take a breath in. And exhale, there's always a bit more space, and then we'll go across to the other side, we'll do the same. Okay, front leg pushes down, lift the back knee, hold it there, take a breath. On the exhale, find some more space. And again, inhale. Exhale, open. Inhale. And exhale, moving over. Over time, what you can do is start to add even more tension, add longer holds, fight more resistance, squeeze a bit more tension and build up that sort of internal tension all the way up to like 100% over time. So we're moving really slow and challenging that range even more. Another breath. And open. And again, should be shaking. And open. Last one, inhale. Exhale. Resisting them open. Okay, and you can release there. So you can do plenty more of those if you feel you need a bit more of that today. We'll be doing more hip work anyway. But that's a really great 90-90 sequence that you can do to just build some heat and some strength in the hips. But as I said, you might need to elevate the hips if that's feeling inaccessible right now. We're going to use a platform for this next, but you can use a chair or a box, something soft like this is quite nice, and we're going to more pigeon. But you can also do this on the floor. So you can either choose to go into a downward dog on the ground. Here, knees can be bent, or elevate the hands, which is really nice, just to keep it nice and simple. And again, if you need to bend the knees, bend the knees. So maybe even use like a tabletop if you haven't got something like a box. And obviously we're getting into the shoulders here as well. You can bend one leg, think about really pushing the back leg down, switch, working into the hamstrings a little bit more. And just have a moment here to breathe. What we're going to do is come into a lunge position. So if you're doing this on the ground, obviously you're just going to bring one foot up high outside your hand on the mat. Otherwise, bring your foot up outside your hand on the platform. We're now in this deep lizard lunge on the hands. So just breathe into it. You can make some circles into the hips. Move around. Working deep into this hip flexion on our front hip, but also hip extension on our back hip. Squeeze the glutes so that you're actively working into this position rather than just sinking into it, especially if you're quite a flexible person. It can be really easy to then find yourself just sinking into your passive range. Try to press through the legs a bit, squeeze the glutes, and have some active intention behind the movement that you're in. What we'll do from here is go back to downward dog and then switch to the other side. Make some circles, open it up. Breathe in and out of your nose. And we're going to keep alternating through this, going side to side. So back to downward dog. Back to the opposite side again. If you have the ability to get deeper into this position, you can go down onto the forearms and make it a deeper lizard. Don't force this one. If the elbow that's closest to the front foot is lifting up, you're making it too hard for yourself. So just come up a little bit. You can even bend the elbows and go partial range there, or use a block. Try to keep some length in the spine. And just move back and forth, side to side. Keep those glutes on. Feel free to add in any sort of movement from here that feels good. It might feel nice to give this front leg a little bit of a nudge open to the side. It might feel nice to add a Pigeon, looking at the shoulder, or even lift the arm up. Feel free to kind of improvise and move about as it feels good for you. We'll go to the other side. So downward dog first. And switch. Once again, you can stay on the hands or work the forearms down. Again, go searching for any areas that might feel tight. Give this knee a little nudge out. Maybe look over the shoulder. Reach up or reach open. Adding a bit more rotation in. And let's go back to downward dog. Once more each side. Back to lizard. Move around however you like. Keep opening this back hip, the intention of feeling some, or loosening some tension into that front hip. Now back to downward dog. Again, last one. And let's go back again. This time we're going into pigeon. So we're going back to that other side, but you're going to bring your foot towards the opposite hand now. So take the leg across. From there, you can let the hip open, externally rotate the hip. So we're in this pigeon pose. You can also elevate the platform even higher if you need to. You can do this on the floor. The bottom knee can bend. You can go onto the top of the foot. Here, I'm going to press into the hip and actually use some strength whilst I'm here to really drive the body up. So I'm feeling that outer hip engage in the glutes. My hands can be on the platform to assist with this. Great way to get some active work into your pigeon rather than just sinking into it. It's important to note there should be no pain in your front knee. Don't force your foot into flexion if your foot is tucked in like mine is here. If you're at full 90 degrees, you might find that feels more comfortable. So flexing the foot there is good, but trying to flex it when it's tucked in, you're going to put too much pressure on the ankle and knee ligaments. So just be mindful of that. Okay, options are this back foot can be hooked for a bit of extra support to challenge it. Unhook it, go to the top of the foot, and then let's lift the hand, make it harder. Use the hands to make it easier. Press and lift. You'll also get some work into this back thigh. You're not going to have to take it all into that front leg, but just keep trying not to push all the way down just with that back leg and actually use this front hip. Okay, let's go back to downward dog and we'll do the same on the other side. Foot now goes across, go into your pigeon, find your positioning, the back knee again, let it bend. You can go on the toes or top of the foot. Use the hands to help to begin with maybe. Press and lift, focusing on driving, using this front hip. Challenge it without the hands. A few more. and back to downward dog. Have a moment to breathe into it. We'll go again, back to pigeon. Maybe this time you hold it at the top for longer. So let's aim for just 3 of these, holding the top. Use the hands or without. Back toes can be hooked. Squeeze the glutes, open the hips. Really drive through that front hip. Squeeze the fist, build that tension in the body. And breathe. And then lower, a bit more passive. Relax into it, and again lift. And lower. We'll do one more. So roughly about 10-second holds at the top. And again. And lower. We'll go back to downward dog. And then let's do that on the other side. Find your positioning first. 3 holds. Lift, drive through that hip. And lower. Moment to recover in the middle. Should be feeling lots of heat. Second one, lift. And lower. One more to go. And let's go. Lift. And lower. And back to downward dog. Breathing into your downward dog. Have a moment. It can feel nice to add a twist here. So reach one hand towards the opposite leg. Again, I really like this one elevated. Feels more accessible. You can go for the hip, the calf, or the ankle, and just anchor the body underneath. And then the other side. And release. A couple more little bits for the hips. Take one foot up onto the box. We're back into that lunge position, but this time you've got a hand either side of your front foot. And all we're going to do is send the hips back, pull the toes up, and go in and out. The intention here is to get into the hamstrings as well. As the hips go back, we're going to hinge at the hips. You can bend the knee, push the heel down into the box, and feel those hamstrings. And then come back to the front. You can even raise the arms up. Again, this can be done on the ground, doesn't have to be elevated. And we'll just do 10 of these, moving in and out. Trying to actively pull the belly button down towards that front thigh. Still focusing on your breath. Avoid rounding out like this. Try to tilt the pelvis forwards, like drawing your belly button forwards rather than getting your head to your leg. A few more. And let's go back to downward dog. Same on the other side. Hands either side of that front foot. Make it nice and easy to begin with. Just pull the toes up. We're pushing the heel down. Feel that activation. Hinging. Back into the hips, with or without the arm raise. Whatever feels good. Feel free to hold any of these positions for a little bit longer. Really actively pushing that heel down. Should feel a lot in the back of that leg. Whereas if you just hinge and you don't push any activation down through the heel, everything's a little bit softer, you probably won't feel as much. But you'll also find By building in that strength aspect, feeling that isometric work, you're going to open up more space more comfortably, and also help almost trick the brain in a way that to make it feel safe, rather than forcing a passive stretch. Build that heat. Couple more. Push down. Pull that belly button forwards. Like you're trying to squeeze your stomach and your thighs together. And then we'll go back to downward. And from here, you can come up, shake the legs out. One last little one we're going to go into is just to work into your quads. So if you go into a kneeling position, tuck your bum under, press the hips up and breathe. Open the chest and the shoulders. If you'd rather go into a couch stretch or something using the box, you can. This variation might feel quite easy. If it doesn't, then don't force it any further. If you want to go further, you can start to come down onto the forearms, but you've got to keep your glutes active to actually open the hips into extension. There's no point being here and just switching off. You can see that, especially if you've got that passive range available. Tuck the bum under, actively push up. And then if you're even more comfortable going deeper, you can lie down, but keeping those glutes on. Because if I switch off here, it's all going to go into my lower back. So I want to actively use the glutes to open the hips. If it feels better for you to support your back on top of something, I like to use a med ball or a wall ball to help with that. Okay, you can stay here for as long as you like. If you need a bit longer, then don't rush out. I hope your hips are feeling happy for that one, guys, and I look forward to seeing you for the next one.